All right, I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name's Broken, and obviously today we're back for another trading stream. Actually, I should probably change the command cap. Sorry about that. I don't have any tweets today, so we're not going to spend too much time, yapping about stuff which isn't the charts. I'm not going to yap too long. I'm just going to, quickly get into the content because I don't have a lot to yap about. I think majoritively, I'm just interested in the charts today. And from what I can see, we're doing all right. We've been pretty passive, though, I think, from what I've seen. We've been pretty passive. So I do want to kind of show what we've got going on. But we don't really have a lot going on. Since that massive movement we had, we've kind of been a bit stagnant. Obviously, we'll get into it, whatever. Welcome everyone to the stream. I don't think I actually have anything to talk about, really. I really don't. I think we'll just get into it. I mean, whatever. Let's start timer before I forget, and then get it going, I guess. So cool, Marco, let's see what we've got going on. 0.8% down in the 1 hour, 0.9% up in the 24 hours. So again, maybe a 1.8 up. We were highest 1.8% in the 24 hour. Obviously kind of a bit stagnant right now, and obviously, like I said, 7 day 5% down. But again, not really that much movement going on. And you could really see on the 7 day chart on the corner here, not a lot going on in the slightest. Really not anything going on. We're just kind of hovering, floating, doing nothing. Obviously, we've got a good reason. Obviously, I'm going to get into the charts. It's not like we're floating for no reason. I've got ranges. I've got two order blocks, which kind of have orchestrated our range so far. But what I'm expecting in terms of what we have, not only just in Bitcoin, if you scroll to Ethereum, you can see Ethereum has not moved. Obviously, we're down quite a bit. But 2,600. I think I can't remember exactly where we were, but we're not too far away from where we were to begin with. Obviously, we'll get into the charts and see exactly. Solana, again, down but up. Obviously, you can see on the right hand side as well, especially of the latest, day or two, whatever it is, we're kind of slightly in a range, not really moving. So, we do have, especially on Bitcoin anyway, as I know, we do have order blocks there. So what I'm expecting is we've kind of had this, stagnation, cool off, if you will, whatever, and I'm expecting some sort of movement. So today should be trying to figure out where that's going to be. But anyway, Ethereum, obviously Ethereum, 20% down 7 days. Ethereum was, I think, genuinely the worst one for moving downwards. It was crazy. $2,000. I can't remember what we were at. I think like $3,050. It's just actually crazy. Obviously, with Bitcoin, we're at 96.7 right now. Obviously, we did have that retracement from the 102,000, whatever it was. I can't remember exactly. But that range we had when I talked about it on Monday, I think it was. Obviously, I did talk about us, coming up to a point of 102k, whatever it was exactly, and obviously bouncing off that and seeing some resistance there. And then my next thing was bouncing off that, coming down a bit, and then going back upwards. So that's what I'm kind of expecting next anyway. Obviously, that kind of gives a bit of a pre-warning to what I'm going to try and say. Obviously, we'll see when we get onto the charts. But Solana, $194. I think we're in equilibrium. $194. I think it's between $194 and $200 was equilibrium, so it looks like we're on the lower end of that. Obviously, again, if you do remember Monday, if you were here on Monday, I did talk about the equilibrium and us coming down, and the where we actually reached and how well we did. If you remember the stream, you remember what I'm talking about. Hopefully, anyway. If not, whatever. I'll show you when we get onto Solana. But I think that is equilibrium, so not too much worry there for Solana. Ethereum, obviously, I think 2,800, 2817 or 2871. I think it's 2871. I think it is. It's kind of one of the main ones for me anyway. 2645. I think we had the high and the expansion line, which I think we're trying to get above. If I remember last time from Monday, we did have that range there as well. So I think that's probably why we're so low. So I think from what I remember, we seem to be in positions where we have quite tight highs and lows. So for Bitcoin's sake, we've got two order blocks, or we've got two breaker blocks, but they're support and resistance. We've got Ethereum, which is I think below its previous low, which is now its high, in between the expansion lines. So we're kind of stuck in there, and with Solana we're stuck in the equilibrium, from what I remember anyway. So we kind of have a reason for all these kind of areas where... Is my camera off to the side? Hold on, let me just make it move quickly. If I hold my hand like this, it should, in theory... Do you know what? Let me just move myself. Honestly, AI, you can't make it work. There we go. Yeah, like I said, I think we've got, obviously we have reason for our movements. I'm not saying we don't have any reason for why we're up or down, whatever. But I'm saying I think when we go into the charts anyway, I think we do have, we should try and find our orchestrated areas like our highs and lows. Anyway, whatever, I'm yapping. Let's see who's winning, who's losing. I'm going to expect to see Fartcoin on the losers. If obviously, I don't think anyone should be surprised by that. Flare is up 20%. I don't really care. Every single coin looks like it's doing the exact same thing, which, you know, the market seems like it's moving. Because again, everything has been doing the same thing. You know, every single coin came down. Pretty much, not the same, but in terms of, you know, what's the word? Of fractions of each other, or of relative multiplications of each other. You know, everything came down a relative amount, and obviously has reacted the same because everything has done the same. So you can see every single coin has had this massive dump because the market dumps, and obviously the entire market has had this kind of floating stagnation in between highs and lows for a while now. Obviously, some things resulting in higher movements. Obviously, with Flare's sake, probably something happened external. And I do expect this to happen over for Ethereum, Bitcoin, and Solana. We'll get into it, obviously, but especially for Bitcoin, I do think we're going to have that movement, but we'll get into it when we do get onto the charts. So, yeah, losers. Let's see what losers. No Fartcoin on the 24-hour. I'm very disappointed to see that. Monero is down quite a bit. You know, again, the market is just down. Again, we're recovering. Where's Fartcoin? Why is not Fartcoin not losing? Where's Fartcoin? What's Fartcoin doing? Is it gone? Sorry, I don't have anything against Fartcoin. I just like knowing what it's doing and if it's losing. Okay, well, I can see the 1 day. I want to see not the 1 day there. All right, well, it's not doing anything. Brilliant. Amazing. Anyway, whatever. I don't care about this anymore. Let's move on to the charts. I actually got to Bitcoin. So this is what I've got. Obviously, this is basically the same. We've got this support, we've got resistance. The only two things we have of difference is, well, actually, on the daily, it's a bit different. I had this drawn on the 8 hour. What's wrong with me? Let's move this back down to there. I think that should be a bit better for this. Yeah, it's decent. It's decent. And then we had a weekly one down here. Whatever. We'll get into it. So, daily wise, this is obviously kind of our movement. I've already talked about the highs and lows. These circles already talk about the highs and lows and what we're still doing on the daily anyway. Okay, in terms of our high and low area, obviously came up, and now we're still coming down again. This wasn't necessarily our massive movement downwards. This low could even equal towards 94k not in worst case scenario, but you know, in an example. Obviously, I don't think so, because I have reasoning, aka this order block or this breaker block here. Obviously, we'll get into this. So let's go back to the daily. So we've got two things here. Okay, so on the weekly, again, my chart's a bit messy. I do apologize. It does look a bit messy with all these lines and stuff. But the two things I want to take away from what we have in front of us here is the directions of these in theory order blocks and what this means for what I think the direction is going to be in the future. Now, the majority of my TA for Bitcoin in the past streams I've been doing has been majoritively on the weekly and the daily. Obviously, we've gone to the 4 hour, but it's majoritively on the daily and the weekly, which means for the most part, everything I've been saying in terms of, you know, Monday and Friday and the other Monday should realistically be the same, or realistically have, you know, a similarity to them. And I think, like, obviously today is no different. I still kind of stand by what I've said on Monday, which was the bounce off 102, which I think, like, it's a 4 hour, we probably will see from here. Yeah, about 102, there it was. So we had the top of this resistance up here, which I was like, okay, I think we're going to come to this area, bounce off it, and then come down a bit. I believe that is what I said on Monday. And obviously we retraced from there, which is what we did, what I said, what I reckon we would do. And obviously my main kind of shtick for Bitcoin was this kind of pattern, or this formation we have, or not, I mean, this market, what's the word for it, like trend, if you will, in terms of the movement from this high to high, low. Obviously, what's next? The high. Okay, so I this is what I have, you know, in terms of, okay, well, how can I back this up? What does this kind of show? Well, we have two things here. Obviously, we have this daily area here, which we have used, you know, here, and we have been bouncing off here, for example, and especially the highs, which is why I got 102k in the first place. The second thing is this new order block we formed since Monday, which is obviously keeping us down a bit towards 96k as well, which is has this midpoint at about 99.5k, and is just more resistance as well. So basically like a coupled up resistance of here. Now, what do I always talk about with breaker blocks? The main thing I do mention a lot is the fact that you can form these, breaker blocks and use them in the kind of intended purpose as a resistance, or in this case, a resistance with these negative order blocks. But the idea is that you flip them, whether that be instant or obviously, again, it's a lot better to see instant, if not in the future, because then you can kind of tell off the bat, okay, if we haven't immediately printed above it, we're probably going to use it as resistance and then kind of come up above it. So in this case, it's no different. We have this resistance in theory, we have this other resistance, and we're using them right now as resistance. But then coming onto it, the main thing is going to be flipping them to be, support, and then moving on upwards. So it's just kind of in that process right now. And the other one we have, I believe, is on the weekly, which is this one here, which you can see we've already flipped. Okay, so this one is also a negative order block, but is a positive breaker block in this case. But we can see, obviously, it's a bit hairy because we're on the weekly. It's like, very strict in terms of candle, candle, candle type of thing. But I'm not undoing. There we go. So obviously formed it here, flipped it already. We've had our bounce, and now we're coming down again. And now we're towards the midpoint, which is about 96.5. Okay, so that is where I'm thinking, whether it be on the weekly or the daily, whatever, is where I think support's going to be. Now, again, this is a weekly breaker block, so I'm not saying day by day basis we're going to be printing exactly at 96.5k as support. What I am trying to say is, I think on the weekly, aka in 2 days and 4 hours, obviously it's Friday today, I do think we're going to be printing at this 96.4. I think the likelihood is currently seeing what our situation is, especially if we go to the 4 hour. I know it's very messy, I do apologize. We have this kind of coupled up resistance above us, and then we have this support point below. You can see, bouncing off midpoint, wicking to the midpoint here, just kind of bouncing in this area and finding good support at this 96.5k area. So we're just kind of in this range right now currently. As with most coins, we are currently, again, looking at the last 7 days for Solana, Ethereum, and pretty much every other coin you can think of, they all have a very similar movement on the grand scheme of things. Again, we'll go into Bitcoin, or we'll go into Ethereum and Solana in more specifics, in a minute. But the main idea is we seem to be having these areas of high and lows. Well, I think eventually, very soon, especially maybe the start of next week, or, obviously the weekends can lead to interesting results, but I reckon maybe into next week, we could see results which differ from what we have right now, aka coming out of these resistance areas and coming up above. So, the main idea is these two resistances, which are, I believe, are temporary. I don't think these are proper resistances, because again, like I said, we are in breaker block area. So I think we've used both of them now as resistance. I think we are now valid to surpass them and use them as support. So what I'm thinking we have this massive weekly support down here, which I think on the weekly we're going to print at. So I think we're going to maybe have another bounce up or down on the dailies, and then maybe coming into close towards the weekly print. If not the weekly print, we will print at 96.5k, and then what will that mean for the weekly? It could mean that we have massive candle down, print at the support, and then the next week's candle is going to be us coming back upwards again. It's very similar to this, for example. So this is what I have in my mind when I'm talking about this. We have this massive candle which brings us from our high. We have the print and solidify at the support point, and then we have the next preceding candles being ones which are coming upwards. I think it's a very similar process here, where we have bounce off the high, big candle coming down towards the support point, aka this being the breaker block, the weekly print being at this support area, and then coming upwards in the next candle. So that's what I'm thinking, roughly coming into Monday. I think it's going to be a positive week, and a bit more positive than we see right now. So I do think during the next week we should realistically, in theory anyway, obviously none of this is financial advice, do not take anything I'm saying with professional context or whatever. But my opinion is, I think during next week is going to result in us surpassing 102k, probably coming up towards 106k, which I think that resistance is, and these highs are. I think we are probably going to come towards this 106k area during next week. I think it's going to be us surpassing this area we are right now, producing some high highs and higher lows, and coming upwards. I think that's. I've given you why, I've given you where, I've given you when. In terms of how, in terms of why, again, we have these two resistance areas are breaker blocks. We need to flip them, and this support is a breaker block which we've already flipped. So other than that, I don't really have much else to say, which in terms of, I mean, I suppose, okay, I know what I'll give. Before we move on to Ethereum, I think what I'll say is, where are we actually going to see in terms of our highs? Well, I think 102. I think 102 is going to be something we need to surpass. We do have a breaker block up here, I think. Yeah, we have this breaker block here, which has been pretty iffy, because again, remember, we have this massive, resistance here, because, what is this area? Again, we're on a different range here. If I show the range, is it this one? Yeah. So, bearing in mind, okay, cool, we do have this breaker block of support, which we try to use properly, but every time we've come up to try and use the support, we've come into equilibrium, which has been massive resistance, and we've broken below. So this, again, in a perfect world, it's not really good. It's not really a very good breaker block, because it's kind of in the direction of, positivity. However, we've got this massive resistance here, so we haven't really been able to use it properly. But again, these ones down here are a bit better. If we go to the range, these are a lot better. Because they're positive breaker blocks in the positive area, so we don't have a massive resistance area, and we're able to use them to continue on upwards. It'd be like if we had resistance down here, or negative breaker block down here. It would be a bit more positive because we have so much more room to work with. So the resultant of using these breaker blocks isn't as strong when we have this massive equilibrium above us. But again, I think that's very different. Obviously, I think in terms of our process, I do think we have the capability of producing another higher high and trying to come back up and, surpass, this 110k and potentially even come towards 112k and whatever. So, but obviously once we've surpassed that equilibrium and print above it, we're then able to come in between 112k or whatever it is, up towards 116. So I do think it's going to be a bit better then when we do have that surpass. But again, going back to my point before we move on to Solana, I'll probably do Solana first actually. Before we move on, I think my price points are going to be the 106k area. This is obviously equilibrium here. I think it's 108k. Okay, this is a different thing. I forgot we're in equilibrium. I forgot on the weekly, yeah. So we're in equilibrium, but yes, that's going to be 104k. That's probably the main resistance, especially on the weekly. Because remember, the majority of these prints, because I'm looking at the daily here, we can print above this area, but the main issue, overarching anything we were doing. So again, going back to looking at this equilibrium, yeah, cool. This has been big resistance at 110k, but the main overarching thing we've had of difficulty has been this movement we've had on the weekly, which has kind of stopped us from truly being able to break out above 104k and being able to come towards 125k in the future, which obviously we've talked about. I think KB. Actually, it's probably I'll read the chat after I look at this area. I'll read the chat, but I think KB has a similar price point, about 125k as well. So again, I think that's in the up and coming. So I remember the Elliott waves point towards 125k as well. So I do think we have that in our horizon, but I do think the main thing we have to do is get above 104k and print there on the weekly. Because again, we can come and print above it on the 1 hour, but it's not going to matter because it is formed on the weekly. So again, 106k, we have some highs there. 104k on the weekly is something we need to massively print above. That is the main goal. And then obviously, yeah, the equilibrium above there. But as I see it right now, I think next week's going to be a positive week. I think we'll eventually break out of a 96. So what you could do over the next coming days, not financial advice at all, is maybe look to see if we can get a good low. I wouldn't trade this range. What I would do is just try and see how low Bitcoin can go, try and get in, and then wait till next week and see if we start, eventually start to come up again and have that print. But as long as we're printing above, it within this equilibrium, if I zoom in a bit, as long as we're printing above this, in this rough range, because again, over here, for example, we were, $300 off the equilibrium support, but we're basically at support there. Same thing here, we could come to 96.2 or 90, maybe not 96, but 96.2 for example. It would still be a bounce off equilibrium. So I do think you need to watch out for that. But I think in the range on the weekly anyway, this is a good time. I think this would be our low. For the potential of a bounce off 94, I mean, it depends on how we print on this weekly support. If we do print towards 95, we could have another bit movement down towards 94. But again, I think in the process of what we have, what's logical to me is that we are going to print at this 96.5 or 96.2 K area here, and then proceed to come upwards in the next weekly candle. So that's all I have really on Bitcoin. I've given you the resistance points, or the prices I think we have big resistance, and that's about it. So let me move on to Solana, because I do want to spend a bit more time on Solana and Ethereum, because I do spend a lot of time on Bitcoin. I think what we have, in terms of our scenario, there's not a lot to talk about between Monday and today, because again, we've been in a range like this, so we've not really been able to do something crazy. So I do think, obviously it's been quite easy for me to give what I think, because again, we're not really done anything crazy. So I think it's quite obvious what we need to do. So it's going to make my job a lot easier to tell you guys what I think. Same with Solana though. Let's go into it. So again, yeah, equilibrium about 195. Very similar to Solana we have for Bitcoin in terms of hovering at this support point. But again, this is a very small range. Which was it? The 729, which had a good thing. I can't remember where it was exactly. Oh, this was for the I thought for the weekly. So again, this is very, very similar here. So a very similar scenario. We have about 197 point. Again, the current trend. So similar to how Bitcoin had its it was stuck in its range. Oh, let me drink some water actually. Feel my throat going a bit. Similar to how Bitcoin, it had its weekly. It had the red line at 94k, and then it had the blue line at about 104k, whatever it was exactly. I think this is a very similar scenario in terms of we have set out areas. So for example, we had this higher low scenario going on, higher highs as well. Obviously, we have a nice breaker block here, which is going to be a support point eventually when you break it. But realistically, we kind of use it as resistance here, especially on this wick. Especially here, we use it as resistance. We tried to hold a support, but again, we did use it as resistance. So I do think we'll have another push above that. But again, going back to the weekly, I do think similar to how Bitcoin is kind of hovering at its support point, I think we might retrace a tiny bit for Solana, come back up to maybe a couple dollars towards this white area, about $197, print there. That's our bounce off the white line. I think similar to how Bitcoin's going to have its retracement towards 104k and whatever, 102k plus. I think Solana will continue to come back up towards that. Similar to how Bitcoin has its 104k equilibrium, I think Solana's case, it has $245 kind of support point there. We have this this breaker block, which once is flipped and held, we will have a good support point at about $243. Because remember, what is this main area? What does it fall under? Well, we do have this 243 we do need to pay attention to here, which is a massive indicator of what sort of scenario we're in. So if we were to go to here, not only do we have this breaker block, we do have a bounce off of the high and the low here. So what we do need to do, we have bounced below this expansion line twice, you can see here. So we are truly in this low area in between 243 and 0 basically in this case. But then because the 243 in Solana's sake, in terms of a dollar kind of comparison, it's a very big thing to get above the 243 on Solana. In terms of how I have it set up, this is kind of a monumentous thing, if you will, because I could put $24.30 and that would be a different process, but I don't do that. I normally do whole dollar amounts, unless we're on a coin which is in the fractions of pennies. I do it to the closest number. So in terms of Bitcoin's sake, it's like the 6561 is $6,500. It's not some $65,000 thing. But in Solana's sake, it's a very similar scenario there. So I don't know what this red area is. Oh, I have the 729 hidden, that's why. So yeah, we have two. So if I go to the daily, for example, this is the biggest kind of area. We have this main area of 0 to 243, and also you have 243 to 486. This is like the two big sandwiched areas we have for Solana. In terms of the longer term, time periods, daily, weekly, whatever. If we go to the weekly, you can see it does match up better. It does match up pretty well on the weekly. We do have the 729 on the weekly as well. But in terms of 243, surpassing that 243 mark and holding it as support and finding that support at 243 and continuing upwards towards 357 or whatever, that is like the next process for Solana and doing its thing, if you will. So we are at a crucial area for Solana. So not only is it, we're just at resistance or we're just at support, in Bitcoin's case, for example, we were at equilibrium, which is obviously really, really important. But with Solana's case, it's entering a new range. So not only will we need to surpass 243, we'll need to hold it and, print and use 269 as support. So for example, in this case, we broke above 243, we bounced off it, and then we never came towards 270 basically, and used it as support, which is the purple line. So this kind of is a good indication to show us, okay, we're not holding this 243 line, which then allowed us to, or in which case we didn't hold the 243, we fell below, used this purple line at 216, and then obviously confirmed to be back in this range, in this example. So yeah, we need to do another kind of run at this. I do think we will be able to do that if we do kind of retrace towards 197, which I think in 2 days is not a hard task in the slightest. So I do think we'll be on the upper range, because if we go to the 4 hour, we're in a decently similar scenario. We do have a bit of a range going on, which kind of shows to be in between these. Because again, if we look back, we do seem to have, I haven't looked if there's breaker blocks or not, but comparatively, we do seem to have, these previous ranges here, roughly in between here, maybe this range here, some lows if I move this up about here. So it looks like we're slightly using this previous high area as support, and obviously we do have some highs here at this blue line, which we are currently using as resistance. So we do slightly have a range. If I went back on some different time frames, I could probably find breaker blocks or order blocks, but I really can't be bothered. So as we have it right now, we're in this range. But what I could expect is, we're coming down right now. We probably will see another lower low towards 185, whatever, because that's just what I see right now. Actually, let me change the. Okay, we're on 243. That's decent. Let's go to the A1. I want to see what we have. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Well, the equilibrium in this case, is the main area from what it seems like. Obviously, we've fallen below that right now. We tried to get back above fan resistance. We're currently flipping below it right now. So what it seems like, we've surpassed this equilibrium. We kind of just need to come back up into it and break up. So the comparison to the weekly and the 4 hour we have right now is, not only do we have to print above this white line at $200-ish, whatever it's going to be, but the translation for that on the 4 hour is coming into equilibrium and printing, in equilibrium and being above it. So that's kind of what we need to do in the next 2 days, which I think, if we go from where we are right now to above the white line, let's say 4.5%, it's not a lot. It's really not that much to do. So, if we could find a nice kind of area where we are, so if I go to 1 hour, let's say, we're starting to do some, higher lows, higher highs in this scenario. So, the translation on the 1 hour looks like, okay, if we can do another, if I get some lines here, if we could just do another low above this, 189 area, which it looks like we could easily do, then from what it seems like to me, we can just do another low and then move up again towards coming back up into this range. So by the time we're doing this again, because look, this kind of movement took 8 hours, 9 hours. So moving back down, obviously 6 to 8 hours, moving up another 8 hours. So to the likelihood is of us moving up into equilibrium again and then holding it as support and then having our lows be up there is quite likely. From what I have right now on my screen in terms of our process we're following with Solana, we are in this kind of triangle thing going on. Let me just get rid of that. There we go. We are kind of in this thing where we're kind of getting bigger and bigger, where we could see another bigger movement, upwards towards 2.9, and maybe then we can hold support there or hold support here. And by the time we're putting it on the weekly, we're in equilibrium. And then what does that mean for the weekly? That means we're it means we're in the area we need to be in long term. Was it the 729 I was using? It was a bit better, I think it was. Yeah, so in this case for the weekly, it would be us coming back up towards $200 and then printing there, and then that being our bounce to then allow us to have this process again where we bounce off here and come back up towards 243, 271, whatever, and trying to come back up over here. So I think the potential of having a very similar scenario for Solana and Bitcoin is quite likely. It does depend on how we print on the weekly, in my opinion. If we hold the support for Bitcoin, or if we hold this higher low diagonal on Solana, then I do think we can have that process. But it can result in a negative. If we come below the breaker block, we don't hold it as support. When we have a really bad print and we continue to come downwards, I think next stop is 94k, or in Solana's sake, it could be equilibrium again at 180 or 178. So but again, I think we can retrace, especially with in Bitcoin's case, and from what it could be for Solana. If we do have this higher low, higher high scenario, then we could see it retrace back into equilibrium and hold it, and then continue onwards, upwards in the weekly, and so on and so forth. So again, I think we do have some positives here, especially with Bitcoin, and considering where our support and resistance is, because realistically the resistance we have in the ideology of these ranges and breaker blocks, in theory, isn't permanent resistance. Is something we should surpass, in this kind of idea. But obviously the support is something we've already validated as support. So it's one of those things where in reality the Bitcoin resistance is actually something which isn't really that strong, which I do think we can move above. So if we can have that print at 94,500, then we can have that good surpass of resistance come above 102k, and then at that point the next thing I want to focus on is staying above and printing at 104k. So what we could do then, maybe I know I'm talking about Bitcoin again, I'm on Solana, but it could be then is coming up towards that 108k or 100 and whatever it was exactly area, and then retracing during the final parts of the week to 104k or whatever, and then printing hopefully above it, and then whatever. But again, that's quite far in the future. But again, comparing different TA methodologies, obviously the Elliott waves have a similar kind of process where it results in quite soon being positive. The 125k finalized area, which I have as well. So for example, like I said on Bitcoin on the weekly, if we can hold this 104k, the next line above is 125k. So very similar to the Elliott lines as well. We've got about 30 minutes left. I'm thinking I've gone quite fast through Bitcoin and Solana. I will move on to Ethereum, obviously, but I want to breather it because we're going quite fast. Actually, I'm just going fast today. I don't know what it is. Look at some comments, people saying hello and whatever. Say hello to some people, and see what everyone knows. So who do we have? Vote Rope, shout out to you. KB, welcome. Danny, Kishan, Hidden Genders. Thank you guys, appreciate it. Got quite nice. A lot of people here. Let me just zoom that a bit better. There we go. See the comments. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for joining. I'm working on the app. KB, you missed it, KB, but we did the Wednesday the game on Wednesday with the chat. It worked nice, but the comments just came in quite late, so everything was a bit shunted in terms of it lagged a bit. So I'm gonna work on trying to fix as much as I can of that, because a lot of the blame of that can fall on YouTube, because again, it's not really meant to do this sort of thing. But next I think we might be doing another one. We're trying to talk about it. People watching, obviously. So if you were there on Wednesday when we did the Mew kind of quiz and stuff, we might be doing one next week potentially, because we had we're talking to another a project we've already looked at, Wolfswap, and we've talked to them. We've already done streams for them before. We're kind of talking to them, see if they want to do something and sponsor it and do another quiz like we did with Mew. So we might be doing one next week as well. If not, it'll be maybe the week after next or whatever. So so again, it'll only get better again. So I'm gonna try and fix it. Obviously, see what I can do with it, because the YouTube chat is not very good for getting live feed comments. But it's I just got random dog hair on me. I saw KB message actually. I know I was busy, but hope to catch up. Hopefully, I mean, again, it was pretty cool. The animations and the UI and that sort of stuff worked flawlessly. It was generally just getting the comments, which again, because the way I'm getting the comments isn't a very, YouTube chat isn't really built for real time, live, updated comments. Realistically, is not a way you want to play a real time game. Real time games, you need WebSockets and stuff like that. You need true, direct contact. I don't have that obviously with YouTube. To make it accessible anyway, it's a bit of a different process. So hopefully I can iron out some bugs and iron it out for next stream. But I definitely want to keep it as a main, a main thing we do on a lot of our streams is being, doing quizzes and, interacting with you guys in the YouTube chat directly, which is obviously pretty cool. But anyway, I'm trying to pace myself, because again, we've got 26 minutes left and I got Ethereum to look at. So I maybe could do a user suggested coin or whatever. Because again, like I said, the massive dump and the build up to it, we had a lot to talk about, especially last week Monday, Friday, and this week Monday, we had a lot to talk about. But we haven't moved a lot. We're kind of just doing our thing. We're building up to another movement, which again, it doesn't give me a lot to talk about. So again, I just have to move on, I guess, because it's what I've got. So Ethereum, oh, what a mess. Let me hide some of this crap because I am on a really low range. Here we go. So I think we're on the weekly here. I'll go back to the daily. Where was that? What did I look at? I think I looked at the 4 hour on this. Yeah, because we were trying to get back above. But again, we had this resistance here, which we can't get above. And again, we're also trying to get back above the 2817, which again is going to be resistance as well. But the fact is, we haven't. Okay. The what's good about this is we also have this support point somewhere here as well. But what's good about where we are right now, what we've done, again, I think I mentioned it on Monday as well. We haven't printed below 2506 or whatever it is exactly. We haven't, found resistance there and gone below it. Should we move it back into the camera a bit? I'm a bit far away from it. But we haven't, printed below the purple line and, had massive difficulty below it and so on. I think if we had that case, I don't think we would be as positive and trying to get back above right now. Because again, massive dump for Ethereum, and relative to everything else, I think was pretty big, especially if you look at the 7-day movement for Ethereum in comparison to everything else. It is a massive percentage downwards, but I think that allows us to be a bit more positive and try and equalize our movement for Ethereum, which is obviously giving us a bit more of a positive, really trying to get above. We haven't had that massive downtrend on the 4 hour here. Remember, it's not like we've had a massive movement downwards. Relative to everything else, we've been decently neutral. Again, we have had higher lows or lower highs and lower lows, but for example, in this case, this low is lower than these lows, so we're probably going to have another thing. But to be fair, if you're looking at high low, another, it's a bit janky there, whatever. But we have another low here. Basically, we have this low. So in terms of our process, we still have that. We're probably going to do another low here. But anyways, going back to the 4 hour, we haven't printed below this line, so it's not as negative as it kind of shows right now. We're kind of in this limbo phase where we're trying to get above. We have resistance, but we haven't got below this major line, and we do have a kind of a main support point here at 2718, whatever it is exactly. So very similar to scenario which we had for Bitcoin, where we had the breaker block and equilibrium. We have this low end, which was or this high end, which was a low, and we have this area. I think this. Oh wait, actually, I know this is rejection block. This is order blocks. Yeah. So okay, never mind. Actually, it does wick into order blocks, so this could potentially be a good order block, which isn't something you want to see because again, this is on the resistance side of things, which obviously if we look at, not bad actually. You can see, especially here, good prints on it. But yeah, anyway, that's just on the 4 hour. It's not going to be that crazy to look at. So yeah, again, downtrend, pretty negative actually, pretty negative. Where are we actually? Order blocks. This is order blocks. So we could see some potential order block. Okay, so here for example, we have found a support point down here, which is good. So again, worst case scenario, we do have support there, which is good to see for Ethereum. So worst case scenario, I don't think we do have support before we go below 2508. But again, I think in Ethereum's case, to have a similar scenario which we have for Bitcoin and Solana, which could result in a positive week next week, where if we finalize at a certain point, today, tomorrow, and Sunday coming into Monday, then we can have a really positive week next week. I think in Ethereum's case, it would have to be coming above towards 2880, whatever, up here. I do think we'd have to surpass and print in this area up here. It's a bit of an ask for Ethereum, especially seeing as though 3126 is the purple line. So we realistically, I think, wait, actually, no, is it? No, it's not. No, it is, yeah, it is. No, yeah. We're 3129, whatever here. This is the purple line in this case. So we would have to print above this in order to confirm in this range. But again, this is a higher range. If we go to the 729, for example, which is a bit smaller, a bit lower, we can see a lot more detail, which obviously shows us instead that this is actually equilibrium. So in terms of coming towards this line, I don't actually think so. So what we're bouncing off right now, it actually seems to be equilibrium at 2608. Obviously, this is mainly equilibrium down here, but you can see the main stopping point for Ethereum was actually the equilibrium we had down here. I haven't actually looked at this range on this time frame yet, which is actually quite interesting. But so it seems like instead of what I've just said being this downtrend, it seems like we might be on one of the last lows of this trend, because again, we are at equilibrium. This is going to be a good support point. If not here, it would be 2,560, $40 off, whatever. So good support point here, a good area where we should see retracements, a good retracement, especially if we print here, it's going to be a nice bounce back upwards for Ethereum. So let me just think, I guess, or whatever, or try and find out. So in this case, the purple line would be at 2987. So it'd be a bit lower down, which is good. I want to go even higher. I want to go with the 6.5. I want to see what we have here. There we go. Right. Okay. So yeah, interesting. So I'm glad I did this because I forgot about this. We're at the equilibrium, aren't we? This is the main equilibrium. So remember, we had this red area, but we weren't following it properly. But then we had 270. So again, like we've had with other coins, like where if we go back to the weekly and we actually can see on a grander scheme, realistically, we're not in a very bad, not in as bad of a situation as it looks like on the lower time frame. So, for example, the lower time frames we're below the 2817. We're in a really bad situation where if we don't get above it, then we're gonna have quite a bit of resistance. We might not get above. But in this case, depending on what we do, obviously it's the daily to be fair. So if we print, outside this, it won't be very good. But again, if we looked at the weekly, for example, quite similar to Bitcoin, quite similar to other scenarios where we have resistance here. You had resistance at this blue line. If we can, on the weekly anyway, similar to how Bitcoin has, kind of anyway, in terms of being in equilibrium, if we can get back above 2690 and print there, that would be our confirm at support for equilibrium, and probably give us not only a bounce back up towards 2900, but all the way towards 3,100 area and onwards. But the important thing to remember about Ethereum, which I talked about on Monday and Friday last week, I think, which is this red line. It's not really followed. These red lines aren't really followed too nicely. So what I could probably do actually is see if I can draw a bigger range and then get the higher equilibrium on the weekly. That might be something I can do. So I'll actually just do that now, just to see what it looks like. I can't remember what the bigger number is before that, so I need to do this, don't I? Because I like it being on 1, but I can go up in opposite percentages or anything like that. So yeah, let's do this quickly. So this would be, I don't know what the next number up is. Let me figure it out. I think it's like 1.5 something. 19683. Okay, cool. So that's again, this isn't something, this is quite a high number. I just want to see what the equilibrium is. Where are we? Okay, there we go. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, let me freeze this quickly. Just want to see, if we have any results on this, because again, this is a bit of a high range, and we're on the weekly here. This is a bit of a high range. This might not show us anything, but again, I've got 17 minutes left. I've got plenty of time. I just want to see if we have anything interesting in these ranges. We go to the monthly in this rate. Actually, we probably not have a lot of data. Yeah, there's not really a lot to look at. It's a bit of a higher range. It's a bit too high, I think. So I might just delete this actually. Let's put a bit of a waste of time. Let's just go back to the 6561 and pretend we never looked at that. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of one of the highest ranges we have realistically for Ethereum is the 6561 in terms of what we can see relative. Because again, it's kind of subjective, because on Bitcoin, for example, it's like the 19863, which I just showed up, is quite a lower range in terms of the higher time frame. Because again, it's something you can produce multiple of. But when we look at the it's like the 59049 whatever, relative to Bitcoin's history, is actually is quite a good range. So obviously in Ethereum's case, 6561 realistically comparison to the actual price of Ethereum, is something which is going to be used on the higher ranges. So in this case, is used on the higher ranges pretty nicely. So to compare again, I think this retraced towards 2690 is quite important. and printing above there, and basically confirming as support to continue back above us. And like I said, this equilibrium realistically on Ethereum isn't really followed through. You can kind of see, like, yeah, we do have prints roughly at it, but the majority of the time we don't really bounce at a main area. Maybe this case, but especially up here as well, like we kind of used here, but it's not really that accurate, you know, the red lines. But the blue line's pretty good, and this blue line down here, especially for this low we had, it was pretty good. We didn't really see it here, but in this case we did have a decent usage of the blue area or the wider equilibrium as resistance. So in this case, you know, from what I have to go off, I think it will be a good support point as well, because we've never really seen this area as a good support point yet. We haven't really had that scenario. So I do think, you know, in the next 2 days, similar to Bitcoin, I do think we have that print at a good support point on the weekly, which then allows us to, because again, if the weekly's showing signs of being positive, that's going to cascade downwards, you know, because again, obviously, if trend starts to change on the 30 minutes, eventually it'll start to change on the 1 hour, which is the 4 hour, and then the daily, the weekly. So, you know, it can cross contaminate, if you will, whatever. Because, like, for example, if the weekly can print at the support point, the weekly's kind of sentiment would be a positive thing. So that would reflect in the 4 hour, the daily, whatever. So in this case, I think it's very similar for Bitcoin, Solana, and Ethereum, which all have these support points on the weekly. So like I said on CoinMarket, when I was looking at CoinMarketCap, I hadn't looked at this chart yet in terms of finding support point. But like I said, I reckoned I was going to find a lot of these sorts of support points and resistance points, because that just makes sense in terms of what Bitcoin had. So no different to how Bitcoin and Solana is, we have this main weekly support point, which I think we should retrace to and print at, which will allow us to be very positive next week, obviously resulting from a 2690 bounce, retracing back up, not only just towards 3087. I mean, again, it depends how we come, especially but in Ethereum's case, we came down very hard. So what's the likelihood we can come up very hard again? Because that's the thing, we came down so fast, it's not like we found major resistances multiple times in a row. On the lower time frames, yeah, cool, we did find, you know, equilibriums and stuff, but realistically on the daily, weekly, whatever, we just kind of came all the way down and then came all the way back up. You know, I think it's going to be like oh yeah, just resume what you were doing kind of thing. So I think it's going to be us retracing towards our support points and continuing onwards. And again, like I said for Ethereum, this main area, there's not really that much usage of support resistance. So I do think it's going to be quite easy for us to get not only up towards these points, but even further back up towards 3,500. Obviously, in the end of next week, let's say, because again, it'll take some time to do, but or maybe even next week, you know, depending on how we find resistance or whatever. Yeah, we should see a bounce on Bitcoin. Yeah, 100%. I agree. I think what was it again? 92500, I think it was. 96500. I think we're at or something. I think that's the breaker block support point, or breaker block midpoint, which is realistically where support should be. I think in what we have in our trend, I think that's where we're going to print out on the weekly. If we do that, I think it's going to allow us to be really positive next week. So yeah, I do think we're going to have a bounce as well. So 30 minutes left. I've gone really fast today. Don't know what it's been. I think we didn't have anything on Twitter. I haven't really wasted a lot of time in terms of talking about stuff over and over again. So I'll probably go back on Bitcoin. If anyone's got a coin I want to look at, I can try and look at it, because I've got a decent amount of time. I can try and draw some ranges and see what's going on. But yeah, so I just want to, while I wait, I'll just go back over Bitcoin and just see how it is doing. So yeah, where was it? Yeah, it was 965 kind of there. I do think that's going to be our main area. I think, you know, over the next 2 days, I think considering what our trend is, I think we should probably return and continue back up above this, printing there again. Like I said, this is breaker block. You know, once we have this bounce, like I compared to this area, I think it's going to have that results where we come back up towards the blue line. So if we do have that print, 104,500 is where I see for Bitcoin. And, you know, obviously if we break above that and this and the other, then, you know, off we pop to 225k. But this is the thing, it's like, oh, why now type of thing. It's like, well, I think there's quite a lot of confidence with this, because I obviously you're here. What did your screenshot say in terms of numbers? Yeah, 127. Oh no, yeah, 1275. Pretty much the same as roughly similar to what I've got. I think, again, in comparison to these periods we had of coming up and coming down, in comparison to obviously these Elliott waves, this is now the resultant from this dump. This is now the longer term resultant of this dump to come up towards the main areas. So I do think this has allowed us to, you know, basically have a massive sweep, because realistically, if we look at Bitcoin on the weekly, we have a lot of lows here. You know, Monday the 16th of December coming up towards the 13th of January, we have relatively equal lows here. And then we have this massive low, which completely surpasses all these lows. So realistically, you know, under the ideology of liquidity sweeps and whatever, this is, okay, we have all these candles which have lows relative to each other. A massive candle which has a massive wick which comes below all of these. What's the result from there? Well, a reversal, or obviously reversal from this downtrend coming upwards, and a kind of it shunts you upwards, you know, or in this case from the lows. It results in this like big movement upwards. So in this case, as it moves slowly on the weekly, because again it's the weekly, realistically it's kind of weekly by weekly basis. This is kind of this liquidity sweep type of thing, which will allow us to, you know, have the liquidity to break above 104k and print there. So in terms of why difference, I think that could be the case. In terms of what we had, you know, here, for example, like, you know, when we came down to here, we didn't have anything, you know, we had nothing. But in this case, we have all these lows down here, which we've come below. And now I think this is our, okay, we've had our sweep, boom, bounce, break above, bounce, boom, there you go, 125k. So yeah, I do think we have big movements for Bitcoin soon. When I say soon, I'm looking at the weekly here. This will take some time to do. But again, you know, the ideology of the month by month basis of Bitcoin, obviously January isn't a very super positive time in terms of you can have dumps in January, but again from that you have that, you know, moving upwards. Obviously December's really good, then January you have a bit of sell-off, but then from the January sell-off, what do you have? Well, you have positivity, obviously. So in this case, this would be this kind of movement where we have this dump, and, you know, coming into January, especially basically the end of January dump, and then obviously we have this reflected in the charts. In theory, should be in this scenario coming upwards. So yeah, but you know, I don't think we have much issue to do that for Bitcoin. What I might do though, because again, this is quite, for me anyway, obviously this is my chart. Let me see this quickly. I see a chat from KB. There's a lot of positions entering short at the market, so we could see one more move down before we push back up. Yeah, I mean, again, we've got 2 days. Why is my camera zoomed in for? I don't know how this happened. I think I've got to do this, but I don't know why my camera's zoomed in for. Makes no sense. I'll get onto what you said in a second. I'm just gonna make my camera not be massive. There we go. Okay. Yeah. So what do we say? Yeah. So some lows. So we can see a low before. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I was saying that. You know, in this case, so we have our trend currently, and you know, we have our established kind of highs and lows and whatever. Obviously, we've got 2 days left. So I was kind of, you know, I mentioned the idea that we have this continuation in where we are right now for Bitcoin or Solana or Ethereum, because we do have 2 days. Obviously, in Ethereum's case, we are at equilibrium, so I don't reckon we'd have that much more movement than 2,600 or whatever it was, 2,500, whatever it was, for the equilibrium. I don't think we'll move much lower than that. But obviously, in Bitcoin's case, yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, if we look at what we have, you know, well, again, it's not really equal lows, but, you know, we can have that movement down below it. But we're not too far from 93 or 94k, whatever it's down here. But also, obviously, this is a weekly breaker block. You can come to the lows of the breaker block. You know, just how you can bounce off the high or the low of the breaker block, you can come within the range of the order block and bounce off of it. So yeah, we can have, in terms of if the breaker block was to be invalid or not, we can come all the way down potentially to 94.5. Next level for Bitcoin. Yeah, so I think the ones I mentioned were of importance were 102k, 104k, and then there was 106k. It's quite, I feel like I'm cheating. I think, okay, not 102k. I think we'll surpass 102k. I think we'll come at a high point towards 106, 107k. I think we need to print 104.5k. So those are my levels. I think end of next week, the perfect scenario, if in what I have currently in front of me, what we'd have to do would be print above 104.5k to then allow us to be outside of the equilibrium to then actually have a chance to move up towards 125k. In terms of the low point, yeah, I think on the weekly, I think the low point is going to be 96.5k. I think we will retrace up into there. Obviously, as we see it on the as we see it in this range we have on the 4 hour, yeah, I mean, we're still in this downtrend. I still think we're going lower. Yeah, we can have another move down. You know, we still have enough time for, you know, another bounce and then move down. It's as long as we have that retracement back up into 96.5k. So I think by that standard, if you will. I don't think this is a chart pattern. I really have no idea. I can't remember last time I looked at a chart pattern. Obviously, I sometimes talked about the symmetrical triangles because they just appeared in front of me. But yeah, I haven't really looked at a chart pattern in a while. But yeah, I mean, in terms of our trend downwards, we do have this, you know, these bounces here and there, you know, on these highs and lows, coming down towards, you know, 95k. So yeah, I do think we can go lower than we are right now. So like I said, in terms of, because when was it? It was like, okay, I've just hit the light and it's gone off, but I fixed this. The light's really janky. Problem is, it's like, oh, okay, it's on white now. Whatever. Yeah. So yeah, because problem is the cable on the light is really sensitive. So if you move it, the whole light breaks. Anyway, I was just saying. Yeah. So I think we can go lower. And what I was saying during my analysis on Bitcoin, like 30 minutes ago, whatever, I was trying to say like, okay, yeah, cool. What I would do personally is not try and trade a trend up and down, whatever. I would wait to see how low we can get for Bitcoin. So, you know, trying, you know, whether it be 95.2, you know, whatever you think anyway. Try and get in, because look, we're pretty low right now. Obviously, this was our low, you know, again, this was the dump. But in terms of comparison to the dump, which was our lowest point, about 91.3, we're pretty much at the lowest point now. So just kind of waiting for a scenario like this, where we have this low point to then try and get in before we, because obviously I'd be careful though, because again, for us to kind of bounce off this breaker block, we have to print a 96.5 to then bounce off it and come back up towards 104.5k, whatever. So, but yeah, anyway, going back to it, yeah, I think we definitely can go lower. You know, as we kind of sweep below all these lows continuously, you know, because at the end of the day, what is it? It's you know, coming below lows, sweeping it, and then coming back above. You know what I'm saying? And just failing to get back above, and then try and go back above, and then finding a significant area where once you have that surpass, it then allows you to break up and do what you need to do. I'm kind of yapping there, but you know what I mean. As we see it right now, we're currently just in this trend on the 4 hour, which I don't know why this looks so different. I don't know why there's an uptrend there. It's supposed to be down. Let's just draw that like that. Boom, 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 like that. So yeah, we're in this downtrend. So again, it's not showing any signs of stopping. So we're going to continue it. You know, it's not like we've done a higher low and now we're going up again to potentially do a higher high, or we've done a higher high and we now just need to wait for a higher low and then continue onwards like that. You know, it's not like we've done a higher low here and, you know, we need to do this and surpass this. We haven't, you know, look, like low, high, low, high, low, high, low. But all these descend, you know, it's not like we've done anything different. So I don't think this is going to change suddenly. I think continuing, I'm just going to leave it off. I've got 3 minutes left. I think continuing into tomorrow and maybe some part of the next day after tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, I think we'll continue to come down. Like, it not showing any signs of stopping. We're on the 4 hour. I think we'll continue to come down, absolutely. Let me look at the comments though, quickly. This could be a dead cat bounce from 92k. We're now heading towards 84k. Lol. I mean, I know some people saying 84k. I know some people say like 72, 78k. I think it's 72k from Equilibrium. 92k lower target. What did I say? 92k. I mean, again, we could have a wick. We could have a wick. I mean, I'm not denying we can't have wicks. I think the majority of my TA, I will admit I have heavily focused on the weekly here. So in terms of comparison to the 4 hour where we can't, you know, we can wick. But again, like I said, we've got 2 days left for that weekly print. So, and again, like I see on the 4 hour right in front of me, we're doing this downtrend and we haven't stopped doing the downtrend. We haven't done any different highs or lows. We're still going, you know, and as I see it right now, we have technically done a lower low. We're not going to stop this. You know, we've got 3 hours left of this candle and we're still going down. So I do think we'll have this bounce off 95k. I think we'll go up again. But I mean, again, I think 94k, because again, this to go to 91.3 was the resultant of a horrible economic situation twice, which resulted in a massive movement downwards. So for any old Joe Schmo day to come down to anywhere near 90 here, 91, whatever. Hey, I'm not a professional, you know. I'm not a professional. Yeah, like I said, if we break 91k, yeah, if we do a low than this, yes. But this low was higher than this low, and this high is higher than this high. So as I see it on the daily and what I have on the evidence of the weekly, I think we should be in the running to do another higher high and continue onwards. But yeah, completely. If we break structure and we come below 91k, whatever it is down here, we start to do lower lows, and then we do a high, and then we come back towards 96.5, we do a lower high, we're finished. Yeah, completely. Yeah, completely. 83k. You know, 83k completely. What would you say? 84k? Yeah, completely agree. 83.3, 100%, without a doubt. You know, I think we've got a fair value gap here, which I don't think we touched or whatever. And, you know, yeah, completely. Maybe this is a secret all along. We have this massive fair value gap down here, which we haven't touched. Where was it again? It was on the daily. Yeah, we've got this massive fair value gap here, which I think is on a different range. You know, maybe this is the plan all along. You know, we have to come to touch this fair value gap. But yeah, I mean, yeah, completely agree. If we do print below into equilibrium and come below 91.2, yeah, 83.3, 84k range completely. But again, like I said, that's what I'm trying to say is, you know, wait for these lows, wait to see what happens. And obviously the main thing being, if we print at 96.5 on the weekly, that's our bounce on the breaker block. And from the resultant, I think that's going to lead us to come towards 96, the 106k, 104.5. And double whammy, if we can print above that 104.5k, that's us above that. So obviously remember what we have for that Elliott wave and you know, the current scenario for me anyway, it's 127k. My prediction is 125k, whatever it was exactly. So, you know, we have to print above 104.5k for us to be able to do that. And again, like I mentioned as well, in terms of January not being a very positive month, and obviously us leading from that. Again, we're in February now. We're starting to we're going to start to come healthily into February. I don't think there has been a systematic history of us coming down during these periods of time. So I would like to think we're going to result in a positive thing. I would like to think we're going to retrace towards 96.5 in the next 2 days. I think we're going to print there. Again, I will never not leave the worst case scenario out, but, you know, my advice would be, again, you can go on to the 4 hour or the 1 hour, and you can trade this trend if you wanted to. You can trade what you want to. I mean, on the 1 hour, to be fair, we've done a higher high here. You know, I haven't looked at it on the 4 hour. We've done a higher high here. We've done an equalish low here. We could potentially come upwards if we do another. Actually, no. We've done a lower. Is it low? Oh, no. It's a lower low. Never mind. Ignore me. So you could trade this if you want to. I mean, whatever. You can do the bounces. If you think we're going to bounce again towards 98. Yeah. 98k, then yeah, go for it. But I wouldn't. What I would do is going to be waiting to see how low we can get. Before, again, because again, if we get too low and then we're not at 96.5 by Monday, it's not going to be very good. But again, Bitcoin isn't Ethereum. In terms of, obviously on the 1 hour, we won't necessarily fully bounce off equilibrium, but relatively, we've respected. If I go back to the data, it's not really looking too good on the 4 hour. I'm trying to prove a point here, and it's not really going too well. I would like to say we roughly used equilibrium decently, but realistically, we haven't really done so. I'd like to think we'd have a bounce on 94k, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't want to think we would come below here. I don't really think we have anything in our tanks to be able to go down. Exactly, nothing is showing that we'll make a move down, and my targets remain the same bullish. That's what I'm saying. I realistically don't know what, because again, the only thing I have to go off is comparison of why we went to a certain place versus where we went to. So, for example, in this case, coming towards 91.3. Why do we go there? And obviously, what price? So, obviously, what price? 91.3. Why do we go there? Need I say more? I don't think we have that in us to go to there. You know, and again, on the 4 hour, yes, we're in a downtrend. Cool. Yes, trade downtrend, whatever. But again, the weekly, you know, from what I have, I don't think it's going to be very hard to go up 0.5% and stay above 0.5% in a day. I think we'll just continue that downtrend. I think by the time we print, we could even print at 90, maybe not 98k, but I think we'll hover in here. I think we could print at 97k or whatever, as long as we're printing it into the upper end of this breaker block. Because again, we could also print at 98.3, you know, and we've got boom, basically a bounce into breaker block, and then it was coming upwards. You know, that could be even better even. But you know, again, it does depend on what we do. But again, I don't think we'll go down. I really don't think we'll go down. You know, we can focus so hard on the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and just think, oh my god, we're going to go down, this, that, the other. But looking on the weekly and looking at what I think the trend's going to be, I don't really think we're going to go down. I could be wrong. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but again, I'm starting to say the same thing over and again. I'm 5 minutes over my time. So, yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. We'll see what happens. I'll probably maybe post, I mean, obviously, you know what I've just said here, so maybe you can keep it in mind. But I might post them on Telegram in terms of screenshotting what I've talked about and comparing it to what we're doing, because, you know, it's quite an important print. You know, Monday coming up. You know, in terms of my TA anyway. Obviously, you guys could be different, whatever. But in my TA, it's quite important what happens on Monday if we print above 96.5. But you know, it does depend. So maybe I'll keep it posted on Telegram. Try and see if I can send some messages in terms of how this is comparing. But I guess the most important takeaway for Bitcoin would be 96.5. That's all you need to remember. Are we above it or below it on Monday? So yeah. Bushball's here. Hello. I'm about to end the stream, so that's unfortunate. And I just see Tariq has entered the chat. Hello, Tariq. Shout out to you. Thank you for being here. Unfortunately, I'm literally just about to end the stream. So yeah, maybe just wait 5 minutes or whatever. Just watch the stream back or whatever. But yeah, go back to message KB. I don't think there's going to be a move down. I don't see what's going to happen to move us down, especially even if it's a move down in comparative to 91.3. I don't see how we're going to get there, especially seeing as we've got 94k equilibrium in theory, which should be a good support point. But again, we're on a no. Hold on. Wait a minute. I'm on the weekly range. I should just go to a low range. Yeah. Well, actually, that's really interesting. That 96.4 and 96.5 are both there. So if we go to a low range, we have to print above the purple line and not use it as resistance. Otherwise, we're not going to be above 98.5 and therefore have availability to go to these low points at 98, whatever. That I did not notice we had that. That's pretty interesting. I want to see. Okay. Well, this is pretty good, isn't it? This is very good. Okay, we have equilibrium there. That's brilliant news. That's brilliant news actually, because look at how well we're using these bounces here, and then resistance. Obviously, we kind of surpassed it a bit, but okay, that's giving me a bit more confidence. We've got equilibrium at 95k. So I'm happy. I think we're gonna go up. I think that, okay, looking at this right now in front of me, I think we are at one of the lowest points. Okay, I don't want to get too confident here, but I think, we've got 2 days. We've got 2 days. Okay, remember that, we've got 2 days. We could probably come into the equilibrium, but the lowest point of equilibrium is identical to breaker block, which is 94.5. So I think the lowest we could probably see is 94.5. So maybe wait for another, I think what I'll do over the next 2 days, wait for another bounce to come maybe toward 95, 94.7, whatever. If you do believe that we could come up, if you believe in what I've just said, obviously not financial advice, that we could come up into 96.5 by Monday and bounce towards 106k, then I think 94.8 is a great entry. If we look on the daily and try and put in a long position, let's just say you get in at 94.9, a decent thing. Let's say 106 is the target, 100, let's say the lower end of it. And obviously this would be probably below the equilibrium, which is 94k. So let's just put it at like 94k around here. So this could be pretty good. Obviously it depends if you want to be a bit padded, nearly a 10 risk to reward ratio. Again, this is going to happen over a longer period of time, so do bear that in mind. But yeah, that's my opinion anyway. It'd be funny if it literally just did this and just went straight past this. The amount of times, it's funny actually, because the Mew stream, I had a long position. This is before the market dumped. And what happened was, I told Mike this, and it was pretty funny. We came into the long position, and then we did this in the position. We used the entry as resistance, and we used it as support. We did this, and then we fell. Obviously, the market dumped. We were completely negative, during the whole thing. So we bounced a bit in here, and then we fell. Obviously, the market dumped. So I deleted that like maybe 10 seconds before I showed it on the stream, which was pretty funny. But anyway, whatever. I just deleted this. I should probably back up. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. I could be completely wrong. Again, remember that I'm not a professional. I can get things wrong all the time. I'm not a trained veteran, 20 years in training, whatever. But anyway, thank you guys for joining. Whether you joined an hour ago, whether you joined 2 minutes ago, I do appreciate you guys joining the stream and saying hello, especially. Obviously, shout out to KB, Kishan, Tariq, Bullish Bull was here as well. Danny as well, Danny especially. Hidden Gems, I'm just going back up. Hidden Gems of Roper here as well. Shout out to you guys. I will be back. It's Friday today. I'll be back on Monday. Again, there's not a lot of jump between Friday and Monday. But Monday's a very important day because that is going to be the weekly print. So I think Monday's going to be a very important stream because I classify my streams in 2 streams. I classify resultant streams and then forecast, if you will, whatever, prediction. Obviously, we've got streams where the majority of my stream is just looking at things I've already talked about, and especially so. For example, Monday was one that was where I was like, look how great I am. I predicted a big dump. Obviously, me and KB talked about it on Friday. I was like, oh, look at me, I'm so great. But obviously, today was a bit different. Today's kind of one of those forecasted where the majority of my time is spent looking at where we're going to go next. So Monday is going to be one of those resultant ones, whether we are either at 91k or we're going up towards 97, 98k, bouncing off 96.5. So we'll see what happens on Monday. Again, do not trade what I'm talking about. Just make sure it's off your own volition. I'm not a financial advisor. All those good things. And yeah, I guess I'll see you guys on Monday. I'll see you guys in Telegram as well, because I probably will. 95.8 is the OC, so that should hold. What do I have 95.8 anywhere? I do, yeah. Well, 95.8 is my equilibrium, pretty much. We're at 95.8 right now. I was just about to ask what the Origins OC is. OC Origin kind of led to expansion. Right, okay, cool. So if I scroll back, it would be like back here, somewhere. Back here, somewhere around here. Oh, I probably should go to a higher time frame. It's a bit messy on the 4 hour. Yeah, cool. Thank you, KB, for that. Yeah, I mean, again, in terms of to compare your price with my price, yeah, I mean, we've got equilibrium, in terms of here. And like I said, wait to see what happens over the next 2 days, because it's not like we're just gonna do this and then go up. We probably will come down one more time. So whether that be us coming up from here and bouncing, because again, the trend line is 95,149. So if you see us print here and then come up and then start to come back down again, my advice would be to change the entry price towards 95.8 again, because we are then outside of this. Especially over the last 2 bounces, it's been quite nicely on this trend, so it should in theory be down towards 95.3. But if it's not, then obviously you might want to get in a bit earlier, then shimmy this up a bit towards 95, whatever. So it depends what we do. If we continue downwards and brute force our way down into equilibrium, then we'll see. But in any other scenario where I wasn't trying to pay attention to the weekly, and I looked at this, I'd be like, okay, we're at equilibrium. I think we'll bounce off here, if not dip in. So pretty similar to what I've said. But if I was to not look at anything else other than equilibrium, it would be, okay, I think this might be our bounce and turning point upwards, So I guess we'll see what happens on Monday. Yeah, if you want to get in safer, you could enter near now. But again, it's your opinion. Again, I'm not advising anything. Yeah, anyways, thank you guys. Do appreciate you all for being here. Kishan Oracle rocks. No, you rock, Kishan. Appreciate you, man. I'll be back on Monday with either I'll be really right and I'll be like, oh, look at me, I'm so great, or I'll be really wrong and I'll spend my whole stream looking at Mew and Wolf Swap and not looking at Bitcoin, and I will never mention Bitcoin. So yeah, so get excited for that. I'll be back Monday. Mike will be back. I think I think he does morning Saturday streams. I think he misses off to the Sunday and does videos or something. Anyway, you might see him tomorrow, whatever. I think you will see him tomorrow. I think he does a stream tomorrow. You'll see him tomorrow morning. You'll see me Monday. You might see us next week, Wednesday, with another quiz, another game, because we might be trying to do one with Wolf Swap. I do believe we are doing that, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll obviously keep you guys posted on that. We probably will be doing one on Wednesday. I will try to fix the app by Wednesday. Obviously, we had some number issues because we had 6 questions and somehow Mags had 10 correct answers. So clearly, somewhere in the ether, something went wrong. So we're gonna have a look at that. Try to fix it by Wednesday. Hopefully, get a nice working system. And yeah, But I think what was nice though is the general consensus was everyone had fun, and that's the most important thing. You know, whether the answers come in wrong or something glitches, if you guys had fun, that is the most important thing to us. You know, especially in those streams, because again, this stream's a bit of a, you know, me talking a lot and a lot of numbers and, well, not numbers, but you know, things. But obviously those Wednesday streams are more of a, you know, a relaxed stream. So hopefully it was more fun than anything else. But anyway, we'll be hopefully back on Wednesday, because I would like to do it again. Hopefully back on Wednesday. I'll be back Monday. Thank you guys. Shout out to you all. See you in the Telegram if obviously you message or whatever, or if I message, whatever. And yeah, that's about it. Thank you all. I'll have a better light by Monday as well, because this one is mics, because mine broke. I'm getting one soon, so you will not see me in the darkness. And yeah, I'm talking a lot. I will end the stream now. Thank you all. Appreciate you all. See you Monday. Goodbye. guys.